Hello, I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This. Today marks the 20th anniversary of the news portal MalaysiaKini. So joining us on the show, I'm delighted to introduce to you the CEO of the news portal, Pramesh Chandran. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Melisa, Sharaad. Thanks for having me.
Happy anniversary, happy 20th anniversary. It's been 20 years since MalaysiaKini was first started in 1999, I think born out of the flames of the REFORMASI movement. And you know, I mean, 20 years of operations, you've been through so much, multiple raids. I think you've had to deal with many court appearances. You've been dragged to court many times.
Refusals, entry of your reporters into press conferences, having your computers hauled away.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean, all those stories.
it's a different time now, and I think we forget just how different. So take us back 20 years, Prem, and talk to us about the setting up of MalaysiaKini, because I think what we fail to forget is that MalaysiaKini started out as an online publication at a time when social media had yet to be invented, when we didn't have smartphones in our pockets. So tell us about 20 years ago when you started out MalaysiaKini, and kind of fast forward very quickly comparing to today.
Yeah, we started off with just 6 people, in an old shop house in Section 14. And the idea was that, at that time, Dr. Mahathir had promised not to censor the internet, had a special Bill of Rights. Whereas, of course, the mainstream media was pretty much controlled, either directly or through their allies, etc. So we decided on the wake of REFORMASI, obviously there's a need for more independent media, and that is why we chose the online route to get started.
Right, but there was also, I guess, a time when the internet was new to a lot of Malaysians. Penetration rates couldn't have been that high, but you staked your future on a yet to be proven proposition, which was the internet. Tell us about that.
If I could just add, 1999 when it first started, that was the time of blogs, right? So no Wikipedia, no Facebook, not even Friendster, MySpace, not yet invented. So this was way back before then.
This was really this is a time of dial-up modems.
Dial-up modems,
dial-up
yeah.
modem, and they had to manually upload a page, and which took minutes. There was no such thing as internet publishing. When you download a page, you click and you wait for seconds. The page will then appear, right? So this was really long time ago. Definitely, there was much lower penetration, but the surprising thing is that we grew very fast. In fact, we hit 100,000 readers a day within 8 months, and we didn't realize it. It was actually an advertising company who was tracking us, who showed us that data. So very quickly, purely by recommendation by email, MalaysiaKini gathered such a big audience, showing that there was a real demand for independent media in the country.
When you talk about independent media, when you and Stephen Gunn started MalaysiaKini back in '99, the idea was to give, to fill a gap which you say was where without government control, right? So government control media was available, but you wanted to give the unvarnished truth, so to speak. Talk to me about how what that meant to you at that point in time, because this was coming up from the REFORMASI movement, right? What was that gap filling?
Well, both Stu and I had worked in the mainstream media in the Sun. And Sharaad,
we were colleagues.
We were colleagues at the Sun together.
At the Sun.
And there was some amount of limitations. You could say certain things you couldn't, right? There were limits that editors placed on us. And what we saw, what happened with Anwar Ibrahim, it was very clear that even the most powerful people in this country can be brought down, and the media will then only give one line of what was happening. But we strongly believe that if you give both sides of the story, Malaysians will start seeing things differently, and this country can move towards democracy. And without democracy, you can't have accountability, you can't cut back on corruption, those sort of things. So our belief was, if we started a portal where we were known, we put our names to it, unlike other blogs which were often anonymous. We had reporters going to the scene, asking the questions, and trying our best to report both sides. That was a mission. We also wanted to do the news fast, because we believed speed was an advantage. If we were to give people the news today straight away, then whether you kind of liked it or not liked MalaysiaKini, you'd still read MalaysiaKini. And using speed, we would be able to set the agenda, the news agenda for the day, much before anybody sees the 8 o'clock news the evening or the next day's newspapers.
Right. I mean, what is interesting is, there were the Mahazalims and these kinds of blogs. Like you said, they were anonymous. They often posted, information wasn't entirely verifiable. So you come in, you bring in journalistic ethics and best practices into the internet sphere at that point in time, for Malaysia at least. But there was also this element of activism. Right? Many of the journalists were also partisan, right? And how does that work out? Because, people perhaps might be asking you, and they definitely asked you those days, were you just anti-government? Were you pro-opposition? And so on and so forth. I mean, that activist element, is that something that you wanted or had to deal with?
I think we definitely attracted people with a mission, who wanted to speak the truth to power, to be independent. We spoke to many people in the mainstream who were grumbling, but they didn't want to join us. We were a startup. They had their cushy jobs. So we attracted people who had a good sense of the mission, and definitely because we were talking about human rights, about abuses of power, we were seen to be speaking the same language as the opposition. We always said we're not partisan, we're not part of the opposition, but we would speak truth to power and raise these issues. So it came to a big surprise that after Dr. Mahathir stepped down, he gave us an interview, or he asked to be interviewed in 2004 because he was actually shut out of his own mainstream media after stepping down in power, and we're happy to actually give him a voice. So again recently when Najib Razak lost,
yeah, you had an interview.
We were the first local media to interview him after his loss, and he came to our offices. So we are happy to tell both sides of the story. Even now, I think we were most vocal on issues like things like Lainas, on Penang, many things where there is current concerns with the current government. MalaysiaKini is the one who is sort of covering those news items.
Has it meant a pivot in the way MalaysiaKini has had to report things? Because once what you were seen to be opposition friendly, and now these same people are now in power, and you're reporting, keeping them in check. Has it made a difference in the way you've reported?
Not really. I think it's really much in our DNA to ask the tough questions. If you talk to our reporters, they got there, they have the mics, and they're in the faces of the ministers asking, kind of tough questions. Yeah. So even if we ask them to be polite, they just can't. They've been brought up and trained to ask those kind of tough questions. They won't do something which is frivolous. So I think that, even for example, when Pakatan took the Penang and Selangor government, if you ask then Chief Minister Guaneng or Khalid Ibrahim Azmin, they'll say MalaysiaKini is always the toughest to handle because we will ask the most pointed questions.
Were you ever accused of being partisan, not in terms of the Barisan Nasional Pakatan Rakyat, then Pakatan Harapan sort of divide, but then that you were partisan towards some factions within Pakatan? I mean, you ever get that accusation leveled at you?
Definitely, we always accuse, the PKR person, people will say we are with DAP. DAP say we are PKR, Azmin says we are pro, Rafizi, and then, there's always these factions here and there, right? Whenever there's an intra-party election. So, it comes with the territory. I think we all get those accusations. But, if you know anybody who has worked in MalaysiaKini's editorial desk, they will tell you that we're very open. Things are discussed openly. If anybody has a view to point out, they can point it out. And there are no calls coming in from anywhere else telling our reporters what to do.
Very quickly, Prem, before we go to break, you said at the beginning there were 6 people. MalaysiaKini started out 6 people. What is MalaysiaKini today?
Today we're at 120, and I'm proud of the 6. Of course, it's me and Stephen, but one of our cadet reporters, Arjinda, now has come back to work with us at Kini Academy. So now she's teaching journalism after all these years.
All right, we're going to come back and talk about MalaysiaKini in Malaysia Baru. Stay tuned to consider this.